myself on the bird. What up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Today's a weird one. Nick informed me that our trigger wheels for our lawnmower actually got sent back to him, so now he has to reship them back out to me, so he can't really work on that thing. But there's one thing I've been meaning to do for a while now. As you guys know, I like TIG welding a lot, and with TIG welding you need tungstens. This was my original tungsten holder I built really quickly just so I could separate my sharp ones from my dull ones, and it doesn't work really good because there's gaps in the bottom and they keep falling out the sides. But I built this with my old bandsaw, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly build a new one just so I have a place to put my sharp and unsharp tungstens. I'm going to mount it on the wall. Just something that I needed to do today. There we go, out of the way. Sharp ones on that side, dull ones on that side. Don't know what I'm doing right now, so be patient. Well, that happened. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing most times. This looks like it might be a starter gear type deal because this piece goes here and then the starter turns this piece and then this piece. And then on the back side of this, must be like a one-way style bearing thing. I don't know, to start it over. I'm just guessing. But this is the problem right here, is that is what's controlling our timing right now. And we need some sort of tooth, so I might have to actually put this in the lathe and try and machine it, maybe. Now, I believe the only other problem I'm gonna have is that this piece is actually balanced for this. As you can see, they've drilled holes right here in this one, so I don't know if I'm gonna have to get this rebalanced or what's gonna go on there, or if I just add roughly this weight right here on the trigger wheel somewhere. Wing it. All right, it's clamped in the lathe. We have to machine off this little piece right here so we can put our timing gear right there so we can control our timing. Let's hope for the best. I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. I'm not even good with a lathe. Well, I guess we can just wing it. There's no guide out there saying how to turbo your 660 Raptor lawnmower thing. I don't even think there's a guide for an EFI to a 660 Raptor. There probably is, but not a turbo one where you need to adjust timing. Maybe there is, I don't know. I didn't look too hard. All right, the next thing I want to do is possibly file out, you see where the holes are on this. File those so I can push this sensor back as far as I can and see if that will fit inside the case, because if we can reuse this sensor and not have to drill the case for a new sensor, that would be ideal. So we take a look at our flywheel here. The height of our teeth are roughly like 0.093. And the original piece of metal on here was about the height of this piece of the ring right here. So we need to extend the crank sensor out the height of the tooth. So what I'm thinking is, if I can get away with it, we're going to file down these holes and oblong them a little bit and see if we can push the sensor a bit closer to the case, give us that extra little clearance we need. I don't know if you guys can see down there very well in that hole, but essentially what's happening is if that's our little sensor right there, and that's the little magnet that sticks on the end of the sensor, this is our ring right here. It's clearing the ring pretty easy, and it's just barely not clearing the teeth. You can see that our sensor is basically tight against the case there, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the sensor off. I'm actually gonna shave some of the back side of that sensor off so I can try and move it further back some more. Worst case, we ruin that sensor and we can't use it, and we already can't use it if it doesn't fit. So this is just the next possible solution. Always doing sketchy stuff. Well, that doesn't work very good. Let's do more sketchy stuff. Well, Well, that didn't end up working. I ended up going like all the way through it there, and it still wasn't far enough to the side. So we're gonna end up getting a Hall effect sensor for that. Somewhere where it doesn't distort the case too much, we're gonna have to drill, weld a bung in there, tap it for the sensor, and then get the right height. It's gonna suck. Moving on, we did get some bungs for our oil tank, so we're gonna get that thing all set up. Got some 8 and some 6s, so 6, 8, 6, 6. Well, looking at it from this perspective really opens my mind to how badly I messed this up, because this fitting is down below this bar, and then this fitting is just about the same height as that bar. So even if we fill this thing, all the way to the top, the majority of the oil is going to be in this line or in this can and not in the engine. And I don't know how much of the bottom half of the case needs to be submerged in oil for it to work correctly. Now I feel like the proper spot to build this tank is probably up in here beside all of this, in this little compartment right here. The only thing is the turbo, it's gonna have to drain back into this case somehow, I think. And we might just have to weld a bung, maybe in here somewhere, so it just drains back in from like here down to here, or just bring it all the way from here and put it right in this drain plug right here. Right, 6 by 7 by 4 gives us roughly 2.7 liters. That's what we're gonna have to cut out and build. Super annoying that we're doing it again, but live and learn, man. Live and learn. After a long while of cutting, pieces are cut. I also cut out some fuel tank ones so we can weld that up after too. I just did it while I was out making shavings everywhere, because you can see it makes a mess out of everything. It's just everywhere. Another pile over here. But I'm gonna start tacking this up. Myself in the bird. Alrighty, our new tank is gonna fit there-ish, like that. So we'll take this front piece off and we can get this mounted. Yeah, so even from here you can see that this is just a way better design than the one that we had in the front. And I'm glad we took the time to make this thing, even though it's really annoying to do things 2 times. And now we're out of bungs, AN bungs. We either have to cut some old ones out or get some new ones for the top, but now this line is above the frame rail and it actually goes to the bottom here. So we do have a nice downward gravity flow into the engine, and then this comes back up into the tank, and I think it just cycles through. Fitting on our turbo over here, it's just a 90-degree fitting. I know you're not supposed to use 90-degree fittings, but we're gonna. And then that 90-degree fitting goes down to this plug, which is the same thread as this plug, so I'm gonna have to go buy 2 plugs at the same time, and this one's gonna go to that one. So 6 AN from here to there, 8 AN from there to there. So while we're waiting on those fittings, I think I'm gonna sit behind the mask a little bit longer. We're gonna build our fuel tank here. The dimensions are like 12 by 7 by 4 or something like that. I didn't even do how many liters it's gonna hold, but probably not enough. But I might actually shorten it by 1 inch on each side so we have somewhere to mount it to the chassis as well. Constantly doing sketchy stuff. Oh, it squirted on me. A nice big vertical bandsaw dedicated for aluminum would be pretty awesome. Literally an hour of welding straight on that thing, but now we made it. I did add a unique design here. I added a small tiny sump, so there's a smaller hole than what this pipe is on the inside. It's probably like an inch hole, and this is 1.75 inches, so fuel can fall in and it won't try and slosh out so much. And that's where we're gonna feed the engine from. And then we gotta get a fill cap, vent, and then return line here. Pretty straightforward, right? Now we gotta mount it, which involves putting this back on the ground, which means putting stuff back together. What did I do this last time? I'm struggling. There we go. Actually, couple things worth noting now. Our oil tank, much better. It's a lot more accessible right here. Easier to use, and it's tucked out of the way once that front clip is on. I like that a lot more. I actually tightened up our steering, so the bolt that was down here in the splines wasn't in. Now there is a lot less steering play here. The biggest thing is the steering moves like this. And that's because these pieces right here flex. So I either have to brace these pieces right here or mount this tube all the way down to that tube at the bottom so it's mounted into the frame solid, but not a horrible fix. And now our fuel tank, which is pretty hot, but it's gonna fit right there once we drill a hole in it. Dang, our ride just got even manlier, because now you gotta sit like this. Now you gotta sit with the fuel tank between your legs, and if it explodes, then your crotch explodes. Oh, the steering feels way better now. This thing's gonna wheelie, it's gonna be sick, and I'm gonna toggle the steering wheel if I don't build a backrest, because it's gonna want to yeet me like... If I was more flexible, I would... The thing with the legs. So, if we're looking at it like this, remember that our little thing is underneath the tank and goes down bottom. So it's gonna come from below the tank, it's gonna come and mount to the side somewhere on the inside in here, and then go from the fuel pump up to the rail to a regulator that's probably gonna be on this side over here somewhere, and then it's gonna come back through the frame right here and back into the return on this side. So I kind of planned it out, and then I kind of didn't, because I just realized that if the chain blows off, I don't want it to blow off and hit something on the fuel system, so everything on the fuel system should be on this side. But but it'd be easy enough to put a 90-degree fitting right here and go back on that side. I'm getting excited for this thing, boys. The biggest thing I gotta find now is some fuel injectors. They're like 65-ish millimeters long by 13.5 millimeters wide at both O-rings. So that's a priority on the list. And then obviously to hook up our EFI system, we're waiting on the trigger wheel, and as soon as that comes in, we're gonna be able to hook it up and test it immediately, almost. There's gonna be some tinkering for sure. But you know what? A lot of the main components are already here. We got a chain hooked up. We don't have brakes. I do not know why I didn't put brakes in this thing yet. Every time I went to order brakes, it was like $200 for a kit, and I was like, let's not order that yet. And then now I don't have brakes. Minor details. But we've got steering. We're gonna have oil as soon as we build an oil line. We've got our intake manifold made. Cooling system. Yes. So my idea for the cooling system is something I learned from Grindhard Plumbing Co. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the radiator in the back, but I'm gonna utilize both of the frame rails going to the back as coolant tubes to go. So it's gonna come off the engine, go down through this tube, through a radiator, back through the other tube, and then into the water pump. Make sense? Makes sense. And thank you guys so much for supporting my YouTube channel. Things are going places, things are gonna happen soon. It's gonna be a lot more content, a lot more fun. It's gonna be awesome. And just thank you guys so much for supporting me. We hit 150,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I never thought I would have hit that when I first started, but here we are, 150,000 subscribers later. The mower taking a little bit of time, Gina's car taking a little bit of time. It's because I work so much. To put things in perspective, every 12 days, I usually only have 5 days that I can work on things because the other 6.5 days, I'm working 12-hour shifts. So I can't get out here at all. Make sure you like the video, hit that little bell notification thing, subscribe to the channel. Peace easy, get that V.